Introduction to Anatomy and Physiology. First, let us look at the definitions of anatomy and physiology. Anatomy is the science of body structures and relationship among them. It is usually studied by dissection of body structures to study their relationships. And then comes the physiology. It is the science of body functions. It is most common question that why we study anatomy and physiology together. It is because the structure and function of body parts are so closely related and it cannot be separated. For example, let's take the skull. While studying about the skull, we study about the arrangement of different kinds of bones and the case in which it protects the brain. So, the anatomy and physiology are together. Likewise, if we talk about muscles, we'll see what are the different types of muscles and how they are arranged, that is anatomy. And then we learn about their contraction or excitation and all this, that is physiology. So, each and every organ, anatomy and physiology are always together. Then we'll come to the level of structural organization. There are 6 different levels of structural organization. First one is a chemical level. It includes atoms, molecules, etc. Atoms like carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, calcium, sulfur, etc. are all essential for life. And important molecules like glucose, deoxyribonucleic acid or DNA, proteins, lipids are also important. Then we'll have cellular level. These molecules combine to form cells, which are the basic structural and functional units of organisms. Here we can see the smooth muscles. The next level is the tissue level. Groups of cells and the materials surrounding them that work together perform a particular function and form tissues. A group of tissues or different tissues together form the organ level. For example, heart or brain. So, different tissues together form an organ, and different organs together form an organ system. Let's take the example of excretory system. Kidneys, the ureters, urethra, all this together form the excretory system. Then coming to the organism level, different kinds of organ systems together form the organism. We'll take a human body example: digestive system, cardiovascular system, lymphatic system, endocrine system. All these systems together form the organism level. Now we'll see what are the systems of a human body: digestive system, respiratory system, excretory system, cardiovascular system, reproductive system, integumentary system, endocrine system, muscular system, nervous system, skeletal system, and lymphatic system. Now let us see in detail about each system. First we'll go through the nervous system. As we all know, that it is a network of nerves. Firstly, let us see the components of the nervous system. So, the components of this nervous system are brain, spinal cord, nerves, and special sense organs. The functions of the nervous system are they generate the impulses which regulate the body activities. They detect the changes in body's internal and external environment. It interprets the changes and responds by causing the muscular contractions or glandular secretions. The next system we have is the digestive system. As we all know, the components of the digestive system are mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small and large intestines, anus, and accessory organs such as the salivary glands, liver, gallbladder, pancreas. Then coming to the functions, we know that it helps in breakdown of food molecules and absorbs the nutrients. It also eliminates the solid waste in the form of fecal matter. Then we have the respiratory system. The components of this respiratory system are lungs, pharynx, larynx, trachea, and bronchial tubes leading to the lungs. The functions of this are the transfer of oxygen from inhaled air to blood and carbon dioxide from blood to exhaled air. It also helps to regulate the acid-base balance of body fluids. It also helps to produce sounds when air flows through your vocal cords. Then we have excretory system. It is also known as the renal system or urinary system. The components are kidneys, ureters, urinary bladder, and urethra. So the functions, as we know, is it produces, stores and eliminates urine. It eliminates the waste and regulates the volume and chemical composition of blood. It helps to maintain the acid-base balance of body fluids. And it also maintains the body's mineral balance. It helps regulate the production of RBCs. The next we have cardiovascular system. We know how important it is. Of course, every system is important. So the components of cardiovascular system are blood, heart and blood vessels. Its functions are the heart pumps blood through blood vessels. Blood carries oxygen and nutrients to cells and carbon dioxide and wastes away from the cells. It helps regulate the acid-base balance, temperature and water content of body fluids. The blood components help defend against the diseases and repair the damaged blood vessels. As we know, the WBCs in blood. Then we have the reproductive system. As we know, it is different in males and females. First, let us see what are the components. Gonads, the testes in males and ovaries in females, and associated organs like uterine tubes, uterus, vagina, all this in the females, and vas deferens, corpus caverosum, corpus spongiosum, all these in the males. And coming to the functions, these gonads produce the gametes. We know your female produces the ovum and male produces the sperm. The mating of these two gives rise to new organism. So gonads release hormones that regulate the reproduction and other body processes. So associated organs transport and store the gametes. Then we have the integumentary system. So the components of this integumentary system are skin and its associated parts like hair, nails, sweat glands, etc. Coming to the functions of this integumentary system, they help regulate the body temperature, they eliminate the waste in the form of sweat, they help in making vitamin D by absorbing it from sunlight, and they detect the sensations such as touch, pain, warmth, cold, all this. Above all, skin protects the body. Then we have endocrine system. We know that the components of this endocrine system are mainly the endocrine glands like thymus, hypothalamus, pineal glands, thyroid glands, all this. The functions is that they secrete the hormones into the bloodstream and regulate the body activities in the target organs. The next we have the muscular system. The components are muscles. Of course, there are different types of muscles. The functions are they produce the body movements, stabilizes the body position and generates heat. And we have the skeletal system, which comprises of bones, joints and their associated cartilages. As we know, the function is it supports and protects the body, it helps in body movements, it provides surface area for muscle attachment, and it is a house for cells that produce the blood cells. And they also store minerals and lipids. Then we have the lymphatic system, which is also known as the immune system. The components are lymphatic fluid and vessels. They also include the spleen, thymus, lymph nodes and tonsils. The functions are they carry lipids from gastrointestinal tract to the blood, they return the proteins and fluids to blood and protect them body against causing various diseases or disease causing microbes. Now we will go through the anatomical terminology. Firstly, we look about the words which define the positions. First thing is superior. So it is towards the head and the upper part of the body. And inferior, it is to the lower part of the body. Then anterior is the ventral or the belly side, and posterior is the back side, the side where we have our backbone. And medial, we know medial or lateral, they are almost the same. Now coming to the body parts, this is the head, this is the neck region, and this part is the trunk, and here with both hands are the upper limbs and the legs are lower limbs. This region is the groin region. Then coming to the planes and sections. Planes, as we know, are the imaginary flat surfaces that pass through the body parts, as you can see here. So there are different kinds of planes, sagittal plane, frontal or coronal plane, transverse or sectional plane, and oblique plane. We'll get in detail about these planes. Before that, we'll also look about the section. Section is a one flat surface of a 3D structure or a cut along the plane. Now coming in detail into these planes, first one is the sagittal plane. It is a vertical plane, as you can see here, that divides the body into left and right sides. Mid sagittal plane is that it divides the body equally into left and right, and parasagittal is it divides the body into unequal left and right parts. The next we have frontal or coronal plane. It divides the body or an organ into anterior, that is the front, and posterior, that is back. Then we have transverse or cross-sectional plane. It divides the body into superior, that is upwards, and inferior, that is a downwards. Then we have this oblique plane. So oblique plane is that it passes through the body or an organ at any angle other than 90 degrees. So all these above are 90 degrees. Only the oblique plane is any angle other than 90 degrees. Now we will see about the body cavities. Body cavities are the spaces within the body that help protect, separate and support internal organs. So bones, muscles, ligaments and other structures separate the various body cavities from one another. So there are several of the larger body cavities are cranial cavity, which is formed by cranial bones and contains the brain. Then the vertebral cavity, which is formed by vertebral column and contains the spinal cord and beginning of spinal nerves. Then we have thoracic cavity, which is also known as the chest cavity. It is formed by the ribs, the muscles of the chest, sternum and thoracic portion of vertebral column. It contains pleural and pericardial cavities and mediastinum. So this thoracic cavity is further having pleural cavity which surrounds the lungs, and pericardial cavity which surrounds the heart, and mediastinum, which is the central position of thoracic cavity between the lungs. Then we have abdominopelvic cavity, which extends from diaphragm to the groin region and is enriched by the abdominal wall and the bones and muscles of pelvis. It is subdivided into abdominal and pelvic cavities. So abdominal cavity, as we know, it contains stomach, spleen, liver, gallbladder, small intestine, large intestine, etc. And the pelvic cavity contains urinary bladder, portions of large intestine and internal organs of reproduction. Then we'll look into the abdominopelvic regions or quadrants. So to describe the location of organs more easily, the abdominopelvic cavity is divided into 9 regions, which are right hypochondriac region, epigastric region and left hypochondriac region, right lumbar region, umbilical region, left lumbar region, right iliac region, hypogastric region and left iliac region. And to locate the sites of an abdominopelvic cavity in clinical studies, they are divided into quadrants. That is the right upper quadrant, left upper quadrant, right lower quadrant and left lower quadrant. Now we will see what are the characteristics of living organisms. The first one is basic life processes such as metabolism, which is the sum of the chemical processes occurring in our body. That is the catabolism, which is the breakdown, and anabolism, that is summing up of chemical reactions. Then responsiveness, that is the humans respond to the stimuli they receive. And movement, they move from one place to another with the help of a skeletal system and muscular system. They are not still or stranded at a place. Then growth, it is could be the increase of body size, increase of weight or increase in the number of cells. Then the differentiation, it is the development of cells from an unspecialized to a specialized state. Then reproduction, organisms are capable of producing offsprings of their own type. Then the second characteristic is homeostasis. Homeostasis is a condition of dynamic equilibrium in body's internal environment due to ceaseless interplay of its regulatory process. So there are two types of homeostasis, that is the positive feedback mechanism and negative feedback mechanism. So the positive feedback mechanism, see, if the response is not reversible, then that is a positive feedback mechanism. For example, during the time of baby birth, what happens is the baby stimulates the pituitary gland to secrete oxytocin. Then the oxytocin is carried in bloodstream to the uterus. The oxytocin stimulates uterine contractions and pushes the baby towards cervix. So head of the baby pushes against the cervix and the nerve impulses from cervix is transmitted to the brain. After the entire process is complete, the increased stretching of cervix causes the release of more oxytocin, and the interruption of cycle is after the baby birth. The cervix is stretched to the extent the baby has to come out, and after that it stops. That is a break of this positive feedback mechanism. Then negative feedback mechanism is that if the response reverses the original stimulus, that is a negative feedback mechanism. For example, some stimuli disrupts the homeostasis by increasing the blood pressure. Then the baroreceptors in certain blood vessels send the nerve impulses to the control center, that is the brain. It interprets the input and sends the nerve impulses again to the heart that you go and control. So a decrease in the heart rate decreases the blood pressure. That is how the homeostasis is returning to its original condition. So that is much about the introduction to anatomy and physiology. So thank you. Have a good day.